Good evening and a happy 2026 to all our viewers. We, of course, took a break during the festive season as we usually do, and we're so glad that you could tune in for today's first topic of the year. So we're so excited, so glad to be back. Last week we had a few technical issues. Please, our faithful viewers, do remember us in prayer. Sometimes things happen in the background that are beyond our control, but we trust the Lord will help us. And so we're so glad you could tune in. Our topic for today is separation of church and state. And of course, as usual, please do like the page, subscribe, invite someone to tune in, and also do make comments, tell us where you're watching from, do ask questions as well, as usual. And so today, to help us discuss the topic, we have Pastor Colin Sakalunda. Welcome.
Thank you, and it's good to be here.
Yes, yes, and of course, it's not the first time Pastor Sakalunda has come on Reform Studios, but for the sake of those who may not know you, Pastor, please introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm Collins Sakalunda. I am a pastor at Minodundeke Baptist Church in Minodundeke, just near the airport. Apart from being a pastor, I'm also an instructor, a theological instructor.
Okay.
I think I've done it for, you will not believe it, I've done it for the last 22 years.
Wow. That's that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm married to Edna, and together God has blessed us with 6 children. 3 girls and 3 boys.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And from what I understand, you are also an author. A book that is I don't know if it's out or still in the works. Please.
Yeah. So I glad to say that officially now you can. I can add author to my credentials. We just published a book with my wife entitled Biblical Foundations for Life, an adolescent's guide into adulthood.
Wow.
We've done it under a project that we both founded. It's called Chokma Foundation.
Okay.
Chokma borrowed from the Bible, the word for wisdom. In the Bible, yeah. And the idea is Chokma basically exists to help young people navigate the 3 critical stages of their lives.
Right.
Number 1 is puberty, when a child is becoming an adult.
Yes.
Number 2 is it's courtship. As you may be aware, I think it's a mess out there in terms of boy-girl relationships.
Yes.
And then number 3, it's premarital counseling, simply preparing or providing biblical principles that can help a couple be able to pursue a godly and sound marriage.
Wow!
So the book that we have published is the first. It's a 3-part series.
Okay.
Yes. So Biblical Foundations for Life is the first, targeting adolescents transitioning into adulthood.
That's right.
The next will be The Path to I Do, which is on courtship.
All right.
And then the last one would be the foundation to a covenant marriage, which will be for premarital counseling.
Okay.
So our first book at the moment is electronic. It's on Amazon Kindle.
Okay.
But hard copies are on the way.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So we definitely look forward to that. And for those of you who are e-savvy, let's support our own. Why not? All right. So thank you so much. That's really exciting. Perhaps maybe a future topic as we head down the year.
Nice.
Yes, talking about puberty and adolescence. That would be good. That would be good.
Yeah.
So Pastor Sakalunda, as we have said, separation of church and state.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, these are words that we hear, people talk about, sometimes we see it online in other countries. People talk about separation of church and state. We've had issues locally and people now questioning, between the government and a certain denomination, and people now wondering issues of separation of church and state. So maybe just to begin our discussion, could you define for us what separation of church and state is? Maybe providing a brief background, perhaps where this came from.
So maybe it would be helpful for me to begin with a historical background to it.
Please do.
In the history of the church, there are three relevant factors that we need to understand if we are going to appreciate what we mean by the separation of church and state. Those three historical factors are: number one, the birth of the Christian Roman Empire.
Okay.
Up to the time of Jesus Christ, the Roman Empire was the superpower of the world. They were ruling the world.
Yes.
But they were not, it was a pagan empire.
Oh, yeah.
But with the birth of an emperor with the conversion of an emperor called Constantine, in 312 AD, when he becomes a Christian, he is the one that will begin to influence the empire to go the direction of Christianity. He's going to put in place what was known as the Edict of Milan, basically bringing to a stop the persecution against the church. And at that moment, the church changes from being a persecuted church to becoming a favored church in the eyes of the state. So the conversion of Constantine. But his successor, known as Theodosius I, he is the one who is going to declare Christianity to be the religion of the empire.
Wow.
That in terms of the Roman Empire now, the official religion will not be the state cult of Rome that worshipped the emperor, for example. That now officially the religion of the empire is going to be Christianity, and he does that in 380 AD. So that marked the birth of what became known as the Christian Roman Empire. So it's no longer just the Roman Empire, it's now the Christian Roman Empire. So that's factor number one. Factor number two is the development of an idea that was known as Christendom. Christendom was in the 5th century. The western side of Rome, the Empire Rome, will fall to the barbarians. The barbarians were non-citizens of Rome. So they will conquer Rome, and the western side will fall. And so when the western side of the empire has fallen, the church in the West, that many years later will become known as the Roman Catholic Church, but at that particular point, the church is just known as the Catholic Church, the Universal Church. But the church on the West, through the Bishop of Rome, who will eventually become the Pope, will attempt to revive the Roman Empire on the West.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and in that effort, he will seek an alliance with kings, with politicians, come into this special agreement where the church and the state will become one. They are no longer two entities, no longer two separate spheres of authority. It is now one entity, Christendom, the domain of Christ. And so of course there were interests. The kings, the politicians, some of them were interested to be crowned as kings. For their beginnings, maybe they were rebels. They were not necessarily born from a royal family. So the Pope is the one who will say, I have the power to crown you as king.
So like Christianity became a way to the throne.
Yes, it became a way. But also for the church, it is security. and support. Remember who controls the resources.
Yes.
It is the state.
Okay.
So that was the marriage of convenience then that will become known as Christendom. Christendom, of course, did not work. The reason was because the king and the pope began to fight on the final authority. So who answers to who?
Because one was crowning the other, and then now I'm in power.
Yes. Okay. So now who has the final authority? The Pope will say, no, I'm only answerable to God and not to man. But the king will say, well, you are in my country, you are in my kingdom. So that alliance failed, and of course it had very negative effects on the church. We'll talk about that later on. So that's Christendom, where now it's no longer the state and the church. You just have one entity, which is Christendom. Okay. Then factor number 3 is where after the Reformation, there were 4 branches of the Reformation. Okay. The Lutherans under the leadership of Martin Luther. Yes. Then you have the Reformed under the leadership of 2 famous individuals, Ulrich Zwingli in Zurich. They are all from Switzerland, and John Calvin in Geneva. Okay. And then you have the Anglican Church, the Church of England. Yes. And then there was another group that kind of protested against all these Protestant groups. So whilst these other groups were Protestants, and part of the reason was they were simply saying, look, you have not taken the Reformation to its radical conclusion. There are still elements of Catholicism in the way that you practice. So that group was known as the Anabaptists. Okay. They are the ones that will first advocate for separation of church and state. Because they will say, look, we are where we are today as a church, as Christianity, because because of this alliance, and you have this confusion where now there is no respect for mandate or for authority. The state is doing what the church is supposed to do, and the church is trying to do what the state is supposed to do. Okay. So the Anabaptists will say, no, let's separate. Let the church be the church, and let the government be the government. Because the Anabaptists would recognize that we are different spheres of authority. Okay. So there is the civil authority, which is the state. There is the ecclesiastical authority, which is the church. We have different mandates. Yes. So let's separate. And then another figure, let alone in about 100 years later after the Reformation, when people are now migrating to the US in search for religious tolerance. Religious freedom. So those who are migrating, even though they have an Anglican background, but because the Anglican Church is a state-controlled church, when they go to America and when they are setting up settlements and colonies, they would want to have a church that is independent of the crown. A church that is independent. So you have a guy called Roger Williams, who founds a settlement called Providence in Rhode Island. Oh, I've heard of that one. So he will advocate that as we begin the church here, the church will be independent. And so many other settlements and colonies, as they begin in America, as they begin to become states that will unite to become the United States, they will carry that principle of separation of church and state. Right. So having given that historical background, then here is how we would define the separation of church and state. Okay. It is simply the teaching or the recognition that God has ordained distinct spheres of authority for the civil magistrate, the state, or the king, or the president, and the church. Okay. And so they are 2 separate spheres of authority. Right. Such that neither institution may usurp the proper authority of the other. And the state must not coerce matters of faith and conscience, because in Christendom, then the person that determined faith and church, it is the state. It is the king.
Okay.
So you are
when that alliance was formed.
Yes, when that alliance. So part of you being a citizen of a kingdom is that you will be a member of the church. And if you don't like it, then you leave the kingdom.
I see.
So the reformers and the successors to the reformers, as they are advocating for separation of church and state, they will say, no, it is not. It's not the authority of the state, of the king, or those who are in rulership to be able to tell me what faith I must have and which church I must attend.
Right.
That is my right. They call it the liberty of conscience.
Okay.
Or religious liberty, where as an individual you must be free to say, okay, I'm free to become a Christian or not be a Christian. And if I become a Christian, it is not this particular church that must be determined for me by the state, but I must choose which faith I need to. So that's the definition.
Okay. Wow. Thanks for that history. And it's interesting, you know, that as you were speaking, I mean, so many things were coming to mind that have happened over recent history that is making me tell myself there's nothing new under the sun.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
There's nothing new under the sun. So then with that great foundation that has been laid in terms of where this came from, and of course you've defined it, and I'm sure as we go along you will also be referring to that definition, you know, for those who may tune in a bit late. So then from a biblical perspective, or from the aspect of scripture, how does scripture inform our understanding of church-state separation? Because of course you mentioned the Anabaptists who also protested against the Protestant Reformation and said, hey, you guys are messing it. So I'm sure there must have been something in scripture maybe that they may have seen, but in terms of just what we see in scripture, how does scripture inform our understanding of church-state separation?
I think as we talk about the doctrine of the separation of church and state, there are two key passages. The first one is Matthew 16:18.
Okay.
That is the establishment of the church. Jesus Christ says, on this rock I will build my church.
Yes.
On the rock, by the way, not the rock Peter, because even the Greek is different. Peter is Petros, a stone.
Okay.
But when Jesus Christ says on this rock, he chooses to use a different, a variant, which is Petra, a large rock.
Okay.
And so he says, on this Petra I will build my church, meaning the confession that Peter makes, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. So that Petra, that confession, on that confession I will build my church. So we see it's a different sphere of authority. I mean, if you wanted, Jesus Christ would have said, okay, I will conquer the state and establish a new state that is then going to run with the new King David. But no, he doesn't. He establishes a new sphere, the church.
Okay.
The second passage is Romans 13. Romans 13 from verse 1 up to verse 7. Interestingly, the book of Romans has two major divisions. Chapter 1 to 11, Paul is talking about the doctrine of the gospel. What is the gospel? And every aspect that is involved in the gospel. Justification, sanctification, glorification, and all that. From chapter 12 to 16, he now demonstrates how this gospel then must look like in practical everyday living.
Right.
And he is going to deal with different relationships. First of all, how you relate with God. And how you as an individual relate to yourself.
Okay.
And then you as an individual, how you then relate to others, including in the church.
Okay.
But he will also include how we must, us as Christians, must relate with the state.
Right.
And that is Romans 13. And in it, as Paul is showing us that our responsibility, our part of the principle that defines the relationship between a Christian and the church is submission. That we are to submit. And then he gives us the reasons why we should. And one of those is basically that there is all authority is from God.
Yes.
And then there is no authority that exists that is not from God. And then, of course, you will go into details to even identify who, in the eyes of God, what is the state, what is civil authority.
Yes.
He uses two interesting words. The first one is the word where we get the word deacon. Diakonos. You say those who are in authority, they are the diakonos of God. They are the deacons of God. They are the servants of God.
Okay.
The other word that he will use is a word that is commonly referred, it is used in religious circles to refer to ministers, as those who are called into sacred service.
Right.
But interestingly, Paul also uses it to refer to the state, that those who are in authority, they are ministers of God. So that's their identity. And you can actually see Paul's point is that even the state, it is a sphere of authority that God has ordained.
Yes.
And so they are also serving God, but with a different mandate. The church is also serving God with a different mandate. So that doctrine, then, there are three things that are important for us to emphasize, three components. Number one is the distinction of spheres.
Okay.
The distinction of spheres, in other words, that the church is the church. It's one sphere of authority, and the state is another sphere of authority. And by the way, there are only three spheres of authority that God has ordained.
Right.
There's the domestic sphere, the home, which is the basic unit of every society.
Yes.
And then you have ecclesiastical, which is the church, and civil, which is the state.
Right.
So all these are separate spheres which must not interfere with each other, because we've got different mandates.
Right.
So that must be very clear.
Okay.
Number two, it is the liberty of conscience. The liberty of conscience. The liberty of conscience simply states that government or the state has no authority to compel belief, regulate worship, or punish theological error.
Right.
It is not their sphere. For them, they have their mandate. Their mandate is to maintain civil order. It is to bear the sword and punish wrong and commend those who do good.
Yes.
It is to enforce civil law and ensure that there is order and peace and justice in society. Us as a church, we have a different mandate. And so the state then cannot come in and tell the church what to do, what to believe. They are overstepping their boundaries. The last one is what we may call institutional non-interference. Okay. In other words, first of all, we must understand what separation does not mean.
Okay.
It does not mean, for example, it does not mean that the church has no public voice. It doesn't mean that because we are separate spheres of authority, therefore we can just be watching government, even if they are abusing.
What can we do?
What can we do? We are a separate
sphere.
No. We have a role. We'll talk about this. The church has a prophetic role to the state.
Yeah.
Remember, we are all partners serving
under God.
One God.
Right.
But who is the custodian of the truth of God? So if government is ordained by God, there is a way that God would like them to govern. And it is the church, who are the custodians of God's truth, that must instruct government on how they should govern in accord to the one who has ordained them.
Right.
So we have that voice. So we also, it also doesn't mean that Christians must withdraw from civil life.
Right.
We've talked about the Anabaptists. They took it to the extreme. They said, okay, because of separation of state, a Christian cannot serve as a magistrate, as a judge. He cannot serve as a soldier. You cannot serve as a policeman. That is going to the extreme. We can still, Christians can still serve. And then what that means then is that what the doctrine simply means, and as we maintain this separatism, is that the state cannot control doctrine.
Okay.
It cannot control doctrine. The church cannot handle civil coercion. In other words, the church also cannot go into
become militant church now.
Civil matters. So neither institution must absorb each other.
Okay.
We must remain distinct. And that was the mistake of Christendom. Christendom was an attempt to bring these two spheres into one entity, which was a mistake, actually.
Yeah. And of course, as you say that, it's interesting. You know, a lot of things went through my my mind about the whole issue of each one being its own sphere, you know, and I mean, you also get these extremes where, you know, certain extremist Christian groups want to be militant and enforce the law and the like. So yeah, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. You are watching Reform Studios Live. Our topic for today is separation of church and state, and we have Pastor Colin Sakalunda helping us through. Please comment, tell us where you're watching from. If you have questions, please also post your questions. We are grateful for your support, and you are not late if you've just tuned in. This is a very great topic, and I'm really learning a lot, and also having a wonderful time as we understand the history behind it and the lessons we draw from it. So, Pastor Sakalunda, as you mentioned, that Christendom thingy alliance that was formed, and like you explained, to try and secure, you know, after the Roman Empire had declared to say basically Christianity is the state religion of the empire. And then the invaders come in, this Pope rushes to try and form this alliance with kings and everything, and it fails. So in line with that, looking at the first 3 to 4 centuries of Christianity that you referred to, was the church more effective when it was aligned with the state or when it was separate? And what lessons can we draw from that?
Of course, the conversion of Constantine becoming a Christian, of course, there were positives to it. Before Constantine, the church was known as the Church of the Catacombs, the Church of the Graveyard, because they had to hide and meet in the hiding, including in graveyards. But after Constantine, the church can now come openly and be able to build a church building and freely worship. But it had also some negatives. Let me just take us through some of those developments and the negative effect that it had on the church. So development number 1 is that the church moved from being a persecuted minority to a privileged institution. Okay. So before Constantine, Christianity was costly. Baptism costed you your livelihood. I mean, to declare that you are a Christian is like you are simply
death sentence.
Declaring a death sentence on yourself. Church discipline, the church was disciplined and relatively pure. But after Constantine, Christianity became socially advantageous. Political leaders and citizens joined the church, not for spiritual reasons, not for spiritual reasons, but for status. Imagine you have a church, the emperor is a member there. And if you want to seek office, you go to the church, the emperor can see you.
As you give your offering.
So people were flocking into the church, not because they were converted, not because they were seeking Christ, but because there were benefits that came with it, and especially status. If you were appointed into office, into civil office, you would want to be going to the church, whether you believe in Christ or not, because you want to impress government or the king. Then there were also mass conversions. Mass conversions that occurred without deep catechism. So you have people who, imagine in one day you have maybe 1,000 people that come, they want to join Hillview Baptist Church. Imagine the challenge that you are going to have to sit them down and to catechize them. And
just accept them, we'll teach them later.
And in those days, catechism was very serious. Preparing a Christian for baptism and a church member, it took actually 3 years.
Are you serious?
Yes, it took 3 years. There were there were schools that churches would start in cities is to specifically just prepare Christians for baptism and church membership. Now you have thousands and thousands of people flocking into the church. 3 years is, you know.
You have to open up other schools.
So those were the challenges. So the negative effect on the church was that Christianity becomes what we call nominal Christianity. It's where you have Christians, but they are not genuinely converted, born again Christians.
We are all Christians.
We are all Christians by association. So that becomes a challenge. But also the other factor, the other aspect is that now the relationship between church and state, that line that draws the difference is now blurred. Yes, because now the emperor is a Christian, and he wants to have a say in the way that the church is run. And you have bishops who are now on government payroll because the emperor is gracious to the church. He wants to support. So you not bite the finger.
That feeds you, yes.
So that separation now, the line is kind of becoming dim. And the negative effect of that is that you have political power shaping ecclesiastical decisions.
I get it.
So you have now, when a decision is made, the emperor has to, if he doesn't like it, it doesn't go. So those that is one challenge. Actually, there is what in history is known as Caesaro Papism. It's made up of two words. It's made up of two words. Caesar, which was the official title of the Roman emperor, Caesar, and then papism from papa, pope, an ecclesiastical title. So because you have this king who wants to control the church, become the leader of the church, the head of the church. So it's Caesaropapism. He's taking on two roles that he wants to combine into one. And you can actually see now you have politicians that are making decisions, ecclesiastical decisions. And then sometimes you have a king who is not necessarily genuinely converted. And so when they make decisions, they will not regard what the Bible says. They will basically make decisions that are in the interest of the political aspirations and etc. etc. And then of course you have the militarization of Christianity, where the cross, remember the cross before Constantine becomes a Christian, the cross is the symbol of suffering, it's the symbol of discipleship and the cost that comes with discipleship. After Constantine, you have the cross now being used as a military symbol. Constantine himself, the victory that would actually usher him into emperorship, he basically painted the cross of Christ on every shield. Because he had a vision where he was told in this symbol conquer. So you have now people using the cross as a symbol so the negative to that, you see the cross shifts from being a symbol of suffering to a banner of conquest. And of course then the other aspect is church purity now weakens. Because instead, if the Pope, if the king sinned, or a government official sinned,
how do you excommunicate him?
How do you excommunicate him? But there is one bishop, Ambrose, the bishop of Milan in Italy, who actually excommunicated the Pope. Excommunicated the emperor. And the emperor had to plead actually for 3 days. 3 days, even enduring the cold, until he went and knelt down before the bishop in the church.
My goodness.
But you don't have many people like Ambrose who stand their grounds and say, well, even if you are an emperor, but you will still suffer the consequences. The consequences. So that's that. And you also have the church that is supported by the state. So if you don't want to jeopardize that relationship. So those are things that happened in the church. And basically, the whole effect is that the spirituality of the church simply went down.
Yeah.
It simply went down.
I mean, I can imagine, like you're saying, here is a person who may be a senator, or using our local example, modern example, an MP, or serving in the government of the emperor, and then this guy has done something and says, no, this guy needs to be, whether it's excommunicated or suspended, and then the emperor says, no, look, we're in the middle of this negotiation with that country. If this guy is shy, it means I cannot. It's just becomes...
Yes, it becomes a mess. It becomes a mess because also you have that government official who wants to protect his reputation. And so, think about what that will do to my reputation, to my career. And so as a church, you want to compromise and do all that you can in order to protect that. So the spirituality of the church that just simply goes down.
Wow. All right, let me just have a look and see if we have any comments from some viewers watching. Okay, we have Joe Chasonga in Livingston. Watching. Thank you so much for tuning in via YouTube. We also have Oza Mutelele watching from Lusemfwa. And on Facebook, we have Mary Longolongo watching from within Lusaka. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, that's great. So please keep those comments coming. It's not too late to share the link with someone. Okay, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and I believe X. I always usually forget X. All right, thank you for tuning in. I hope we're learning a lot, and I hope as Pastor is explaining, you can sort of think through, even in local examples, like, hey, there's nothing new under the sun, nothing new under the sun. So speaking of home, bring it a bit closer to home now as Africans. Of course, we know, and thank you so much for painting a very beautiful picture of what happened back then and the background and where we see this coming. In terms of African church history, do we have any lessons we can learn about engaging with state authority, one or two, in line with what we're talking about, separation of church and state?
Yeah, there is actually. Coming to Africa, you have kingdoms that also attempted to make Christianity an official state religion.
Nothing new under the sun.
And I mean, of course, Ethiopia is the first. Ethiopia is the first, even though the church in Ethiopia has still survived to this day. But Christianity, I think, is not as vibrant as it was in those centuries. You have also another kingdom that is no longer in existence, but it was known as the Nubian kingdom. It basically occupied...
I've heard of Nubia.
Yes, Nubia. It basically occupied the northern region of Sudan and the southern region of Egypt. All that region was occupied by Nubia. It was a very powerful kingdom. And when Christianity was introduced in Nubia, and of course the king converts to become a Christian, and he desires...
Same pattern.
Yes, same pattern. And he desires that Christianity would spread and Christianity would become a national religion. Now, the effect was that, if there is something that we must learn from church history, you cannot Christianize a nation through legislation. You can't do that because
that's a profound statement.
The Christianizing a nation can only happen through evangelism. I mean, and Jesus Christ knows better. Remember the Great Commission. Go ye therefore and make disciples of all nations. Or Acts 1 verse 8, you will receive power and you will be my witnesses. That is how it ought to be done. So it's not by a political slogan, or it's not by going to parliament or passing a law. Or no, it's not. Even though nationalizing Christianity and led by civil authority comes with advantages,
like you mentioned earlier.
But the price we pay for it as a church is huge. So Nubia, when Islam was now gaining ground in Africa, and Nubia was one of those to fall to Islam. When the king fell, Christianity also fell, because you had a royal court Christianity.
Right.
It was a Christianity that was coming from the top going down. Okay. It would have been different if it was people who were evangelized, and members become converted, and the church becomes strong that way. It would have been different. But with the fall of the Nubian Empire, that also marked the fall of the church. So that lesson we must learn, and also it's where you begin to use the church as a state utility. You use it for political expedience. I mean, Nubia teaches us a big lesson. Never do that. Never do that. Because when the state falls, then all crumbles. The other example is Congo, which is more closer to us as Zambia.
Very close.
The northern part of Angola, Congo DRC, Congo Brazzaville, all that going to the western coast of Africa was occupied by a kingdom called Congo.
Oh, Congo.
Yes, it was called Congo. The Kingdom of Congo. And the Congo as well, you have a prince who becomes king, and he becomes a Christian.
same pattern throughout.
Same pattern. And when he becomes a Christian, he also wants to nationalize Christianity. He wants it to become a state religion. Now, from Congo, the trouble was, the trouble from Congo was, it's what we call, as theologians, we call it syncretism. It's where Christianity is now mixed with African traditional religion. Okay, so you from Christianity, yes, we will borrow the Bible, we'll borrow the faith, but then we are going to use local terms and local objects. So it's basically now a mixture of two religions. That's the scandal of Congo.
Right.
So you have a new Christianity, where it's now difficult to make a distinction. Okay, is this Christianity or it's African traditional religion?
Right.
So that's Congo. So all those are lessons that we must learn, because remember, when Christianity becomes when it goes that direction, you have people who are coming into the church with different agendas, different ideas, and they will not look at the Bible. They will also want to come with what they are coming with.
You know what you mentioned there about the whole Congo issue and what happened with the merging of African traditional religion and Christianity. You then begin to wonder, is this a witch doctor or a man of God? You know?
Well, actually, interestingly, one of the titles, for example, that was used to refer to ministers, to the pastor, was Nganga. The actual word Nganga.
You don't say?
Yes, he was called the Nganga. Because look, we want, it's not actually contextualization. It's more than that. It's more than that. So it's those terms. It's where even, for example, Catholicism had a lot of relicalism, even to this day. Relics. Objects that are believed to be associated either with Christ or the apostles or the saints,
and
that possess
to have power.
Yes, power to bless and to do miracles. So now bring it in an African context. Let's have our own relics.
Those are charms.
Oh man, that was Congo. That was Congo. So those are lessons that we need to learn as we are talking about this. This.
We need to invite you to talk about African traditional religion. Because some of these papas are beginning to think the history maybe comes from this Congo issue,
actually, it's not a surprise. When you look at Christianity, Western African Christianity and Central African Christianity, it's syncretism, actually. Most of it is syncretism.
And it's funny that it came from this whole issue of lack of separation of church and state.
Yes.
Wow.
And remember, it's appealing to us because I mean, African traditional religion is part of our culture. And so instead of us giving it away, we would rather, okay, let's embrace, but let's have our own form of Christianity. Yeah.
Gosh.
And of course, colonialism didn't help. Christians were now reacting against anything that the white man brought, including the Bible. So you want to say, let's have our own religion, let's have our own Bible, let's have our, so ish.
Okay. All right. So, of course, you did touch on the whole issue of when we spoke earlier about the Anabaptists who protested what the Protestant Reformation were doing, saying you're still compromising, and went to the extreme, you know, and decided the Christian can't be a magistrate, soldier,
police,
and everything. So, perhaps as we're watching now, people are wondering, should the church speak out on political issues? And if so, how? I know you touched a bit on it when you said being a prophetic voice, that separation allows us to, maybe you can.
No, we should. We should. And I think when we say prophetic voice, we don't mean it in a modern way where we see the way the word is used.
But I've come as a prophet to tell you what will happen.
I'll tell you,
who will win the election.
Yes, 2026 up to 2040 will be. No, that's not the sense that we're using this. Prophetic, we are borrowing it. If you remember in the Old Testament, when the theocracy of Israel crumbles, Israel to become a monarch, there is, so the king now is the ruler.
Yes.
And of course, an idea that was, I mean, it was against, I mean, God was really against it because of the abuses that kings would do. He actually warned. But of course, Israel will have its own way to become a monarch. So God will strengthen the office of a prophet. Because before then, you had these three offices united into one person. For example, Moses was both prophet and judge.
Yes.
He was governing, but at the same time, he had the responsibility to listen to God and be able to instruct. You have Samuel, who is another example, who have three offices united in one. Samuel was a judge.
Yes.
He was also a priest.
Oh, yes, trained as a priest.
And he was also a prophet.
Right.
So now with the rejection of
the
theocracy to go the monarchy way, instead of doing away with this office, God will strengthen the office of the prophet. And the reason is to provide checks and balances to the king. Because God knew that these kings will be prone to abuse their authority. And some of them actually would fail their responsibility of leading the nation to worship Yahweh, to be faithful to the covenant. So that's why the prophet comes in, to simply call back the king and say, Bwana, I think you are losing it. You are not going the direction that God would want us to go.
Like Nathan and David.
So you have Nathan and David. You have Elijah and Ahab. So all that relationship. So that's where we are borrowing the principle. So coming into us as a church, remember we are the custodians of the truth of God. And yes, civil authority is a servant of God, the same God that we are worshiping is the servant. But then if that authority is from God, civil authority needs to know how must they function. And we are the ones to whom God has entrusted his truth. So we are the ones who must guide them, so that when they are going in a wrong way, we must tell them. If they are making policies and laws that promote injustice and unfairness and non-equity, we as a church must speak and say, no, I think that's not the way God would love you to govern his people. Or to use the authority that he has entrusted to you. Now, how we do it is important. How we do it is important. As we critique, we do it without slander. As we critique, we do it without mocking.
Okay.
As we critique, we do it without despising, because we also have a huge responsibility. We are witnesses.
Right.
And so that witness, there must not be anything that will stand in the way of our witness. So that when we speak, government will say, friends, the church has spoken. Ours is to listen. God has spoken through the custodians of his word, the custodians of his truth, the custodians of his counsel. Ours is to listen. So it matters the way we do it. We have a role, a critical role, an important role to critique government, to instruct government, but how we do it is important.
I think that's very crucial, like you have said. I mean, as you spoke, I thought of like a Christian, because you're talking about our witness.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine like being a Christian, and then you have this neighbor, you know, who is, you know, not saved, is a bit careless with, and then you start mocking him, insulting him, and then tomorrow you want to sit with the Bible and say, let me tell you about the love of God and the Christ, you know.
No, I mean,
Jesus died for you.
He wouldn't. He would say, I mean, you mean the God, your God that you're worshiping?
You know?
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. So we see when Paul talks about, for example, when he talks about how slaves must submit to their masters.
Yes.
And also how masters must conduct themselves to their slaves. There is one important thing that Paul emphasizes.
Yes.
The adorning the gospel.
Right.
Let's make the gospel attractive. Let's make the gospel beautiful, that when people look at it, they must be attracted. They must admire it.
Yes.
And want to be part of what that is doing.
Yes.
But if we are careless about it, we, as Paul would put it, we are putting an obstacle in the way of the gospel.
Yeah.
We are killing our witness.
Yeah.
So that's important to actually pay attention to.
Okay. Yeah. Of course, I mean, we're almost coming to winding up.
Yeah.
So if you're watching, please do tell us where you're watching from. It's always exciting to get messages online and to know where you're watching us from. We have Friday Malambo. It says, great teaching, Pastor. Yeah, that's on Facebook.
Yes,
thank you so much, Friday.
Yeah.
Joseph K. Mwankokesha. It says, watching from within Ibex Twin Palm.
Yes. Joseph is my student. Elder Malambo is my colleague.
Lovely. Yes. And then we have Kangwa Katemba, following from Minwood Ndeke.
Yes.
All right. No, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much. Now, Pastor, of course, sometimes we hear, you know, of pastors getting involved in politics and the like and so on. So is it possible for a pastor to be politically active without compromising their pastoral neutrality? From everything you've explained.
Historically, I mean, I've taken you through history. You can imagine in all that we have discussed. No. Remember, we are two distinct spheres.
Yes.
And I think in the way that God has ordained these spheres of authority, he desires them not to actually mingle. So it becomes a little bit of a challenge. For example, I am pastor at Minwood Ndeke Baptist Church, and at the same time I'm a politician.
Right.
It becomes a little bit difficult to navigate through and to be able to balance through and to be able to see how best I may manage that.
Right.
In the process, one will suffer. It is either my political career will suffer, or my pastorate will actually suffer. The advice that I usually give to fellow pastors who at a particular moment begin to feel perhaps they are called to go that direction, I advise them to resign from the pastorate.
Right.
Because remember, the pastor is not just a title. The emphasis is function.
Yes.
So there is a flock under me. There is a congregation under me. So you can imagine Pastor Sakalunda on Saturday was on stage and busy calling names. The other one and
honorable
pastor. Yes, and and then on Sunday I'm preaching. Now you can imagine my members. Some of them, they are supporting the other political party. Yeah. So you can imagine how they are going to look at me.
Wow.
Yeah. So it puts an obstacle in the way of the gospel. It puts an obstacle in your pastoral ministry. Unless you just say, okay, I don't care what people will say about me. I don't care how this will affect the flock that God has entrusted to my care. But if you do care, you would rather simply just say, friends, I think my calling is changing. The vision that I'm receiving, it is for me to function. God wants me to function in the civil sphere. And of course, you remain a Christian in the ecclesiastical sphere, but not office.
Okay.
Not office, because and I think there are a lot of things that we can talk about.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So if I hear you, a Christian can be active politically, but when we speak of someone who is functioning as a pastor,
in ecclesiastical office,
okay,
a Christian can. Why not? If we can have more members of parliament that are Christians, if we can have a president who is a Christian, why not? If we can have judges who are Christians, why not? But those in ecclesiastical office,
all right. No, awesome. Let me just have a look and see if we have any questions before we wind up with our final question. Let me just have a look. Okay, we have Jonathan Tembo watching from Meanwood Ibex. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in, Jonathan. All right, so of course, I think to our viewers, as we wind up, should any questions come up maybe a little later, we can always take note of them and pass them on to Pastor Sakalunda. Maybe record a voice note or something, and then we then give a response on social media. So then, finally bringing it home to Zambia, and it's interesting, and I just love how that history has truly shown, like the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. And it's funny that in every example that you've given, it is always a situation where this king becomes a Christian, and then says, guys, So we did have a king. A president who, of course, was a believer and, declared Zambia a Christian nation. So, of course, Zambia is constitutionally a Christian nation. Does this declaration inherently contradict the principle of separation? Or is it about how we interpret it? Or,
I think not. If you've noticed from history, the problem has been lack of theological or biblical clarity. That's where the problem has been. And so even when we are bringing it home, and to speak about Zambia being declared a Christian nation, we must keep these two separate. There is no harm. There is no harm, for example, in desiring that a nation be dedicated. I rather prefer I prefer to think of that declaration as a dedication, and not a declaration. Because remember, you can't Christianize a nation by legislation. It's by evangelism. That's biblical. There's no arguments about it. So I rather think about it as a dedication. Here is a leader who feels moved that this nation must be dedicated to God.
Right.
So let's have principles that govern us, that are based on the God of the Bible. We have the national values and principles. The president was just giving an update in Parliament. Let's have our values and principles that are based on the Bible. Let's have a constitution that is based on the Bible. Let's have the judiciary, the Parliament that is enacting laws that are morally right, because remember there's actually a distinction between legality and morality. There's that difference is clear. So let's have Parliament that is making laws based on the Bible. Why not? But as to whether then we go into this alliance, where now the state begins to tell us as the church what we must do, and the church also interfering with let's remember, biblically speaking, these are two distinct, separate spheres of authority with different mandates. So let's stick to that. I think three principles must define our relationship. The relationship between the church and the state. Three principles must define. Number one, we are serving one master. Both state and church. We are serving God. Romans 13 makes it very clear. All authority is from God. There is no authority that is in existence that isn't from God.
I think that's important, because sometimes as Christians in certain circles, people demonize.
So it doesn't matter whether, Paul was writing, Paul was writing that passage when Nero was emperor of Rome. And if you know anything about Nero, so regardless, they are still serving God. We also as a church, we are serving God. So we have one master. We must not forget that. Two, because we are serving one master, we are therefore partners. The church and the state are partners, because all of us, our ministry is towards the people of God. The state, God has entrusted the people that they govern and provide order, justice. The church, it is the same pool of people. And so we are partners. We are partners. There's no need to fight. No need to, we can disagree. And when we disagree, we must still respect each other. But we are partners. We are partners. The state, remember, one of the key things is this. Who controls national resources? Money, minerals, all those, who controls? It is the state. So there is no harm in the state saying, okay, you are also doing a work of our master. You seem to be challenged. Here is money for you to build churches. Here is money for you to train your leaders. There is no harm in doing that. We are serving one. We are partners. But also the church to instruct and guide the state in spiritual matters and in matters of governance, because we understand how the state must govern God's people. So that's principle number two. We are partners. Principle number three, which is very important as we talk about even Zambia being declared a Christian nation. Principle number three is respecting the distinction of authority and mandate between the church and state. Let the state be the state and do what they are mandated to do as the state. And let the church be the church and do what we are mandated as a church. The moment we try to go the Christendom way, or the moment that we begin to see the state interfering into church matters, or the other way around, the church interfering into state matters, we will have confusion. We will have. So those three principles help to define how our relationship ought to be.
Wow, that's very insightful. Very, very insightful. You should write a book on this.
Perhaps now that we have talked about it.
Yes, please do.
I can.
So this has been Reform Studios. Very, very insightful. Very, very insightful. And I think for me, the key takeaway is that in as much as all these previous kings in our local times or modern times, presidents may have these good intentions about trying to, make Christianity something of worth because it's been a blessing to them. I think you mentioned one key statement that I really. You said theological clarity.
Yes.
That theological clarity. Say, okay, Mr. President, and as much as you want to do this, there is this aspect.
Yes. That is important because our friends, the church, we must be able to guide and say, no, wait a minute. What are your intentions? What are you thinking? What do you feel led to do? And then we guide. Perhaps the best way to do it is this way. So that that relationship between the state and church is not compromised.
And if you forget anything Pastor said, one thing I love that he said was the fact that a people or a nation cannot be declared Christian through legislation.
It cannot be Christianized.
It cannot be Christianized. It is only through evangelism, which is what we've been called to do. All right. With that said, I just want to thank Pastor Sakalunda for having come. Thank you so much.
Well,
I think my colleagues in our content creation department, I think, are already having ideas. I think African traditional religion and papas, we need to talk about that one, and a few other things that have come up as we have spoken, including your book. That would be good. So I know it's not yet in print, but once it's in print, will it be available somewhere?
Yes. I think once we have the hard copies come in, we will make it available.
Okay.
We would love that churches would use it as a discipleship tool.
Okay.
To basically guide young people. I was talking to a student at African Christian University where I serve as chaplain as well.
Yes.
And so I was saying, have you ever thought about it that for your career, you take more than 20 years to prepare for your career? Preschool, then grade 1 to grade 12, then you have university, you also have internship, just for your career. But for marriage, the list that the church can provide for you is less than 6 months. But this is an institution that God intends for a lifetime.
Yes.
More important actually than your career.
Yes.
And so it's an area that we have not paid attention to as a church. It's high time. And the best stage to begin is when a child is transitioning into adulthood. They need to know what is expected of them, the responsibilities that come with growing up, and so guide them through.
Yes.
So that by the time they are saying I do, they know what they are getting into and they understand what marriage is all about.
Okay, that's a dionko for an upcoming topic. But it's in line with what you said about the different spheres, separation of church and state. You've got the family, you've got the church, and you have government. We can go on the whole night. This is where we end for tonight. On behalf of Pastor Sakalunda and myself, thank you so much for tuning in. If you do have any questions, we'll take note of those questions and then we'll be able to present to Pastor Sakalunda. We'll give him a few days to go through and give us an answer, and then we'll get back and post those answers online. So from us here at Reform Studios, thank you so much and thank you for tuning in.
Good night.
Good night.